morning, board members, staff, and guests, and welcome to this board work session of Brown Bag here April 9th, 2019. And as usual, I'd like to introduce Ms. Janice Hernandez, who's going to lead us in our invocation, followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Okay. Almighty God, allow us to collectively bring reflection and wisdom to our meeting. May we use our expertise and our judgment to contribute to the well-being of our students and the families that we serve. May we be listeners more than speakers, and may we always have in mind your will for the future of our district. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez.
First item of information, Southwest High School Health Profession Pathway.
Yes, sir, we have three agenda items we'd like to go through today. Starting off with our health profession. We also have our athletic director and the company, I think, is going to give us some information, some changes in UIL and some recommendations about how we can accomplish some things this summer. And then Mr. Smith is going to do big picture budget for us, kind of bring us up to the level of status of what the budget is here in Texas and in Southwest ISD. So to start off with our first presentation, I'd like to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Leo Garcia. And I think she's going to also introduce some guests who know the next stage.
Yes. So, good afternoon. I'm very pleased to inform, all of our committee and also our board that we are happy that we can celebrate that we have a great health and science facility at Southwest High School and for our district to serve our students. And we also have a great program that we have 3 different departments that have been working really hard along with Southwest High School to bring for us this opportunity for the students. We've also been able to partner up with several partners that we didn't have in the past, so we're also excited about that. So before we begin, I do want to welcome Zelina Aragon, who is just returning back from having a baby. And so we're happy to have our secondary ED back here with us. So we're going to go ahead and begin with our big overarching goal. And what we're trying to do is that what works for one and the greatness and the best of one pathway, we want to come back and replicate that one good practice. So Jackie's going to go ahead and take us down through what we are now calling that plan for success. And this is some of the work that we would like for us to begin to design a plan for each of the pathways that we currently have at the high schools. Jackie?
Thank you and good afternoon. Yeah. Okay. So as Dalila had mentioned, this collaboration, today's presentation is the health pathway, but it's a collaboration between CTE, the counselors, and advanced academics. So I'm going to start off by giving an advanced academics overview and then how it's going to apply to the health pathway in particular, and then how we're going to branch out from there. So right now, our goal is to create a college-going culture, getting students college-ready through advanced academics. Currently, we have been giving students PSAT, SAT, ACT, AP opportunities. Our scores are slowly rising, but they show that there is room for improvement. So what we're looking at is developing some non-negotiables and core content starting in grades 6 through 12 to help increase rigor and prepare students. And I'll go over how that looks as we continue. In the area of dual credit, opportunities have continued to increase. Thank you. But we want to provide opportunities for all students, and that we'll go into our plan for success a little bit later in the presentation. And then GT. Right now, just feedback, what I've observed, students are not receiving services to the fullest. This is how we can really impact those younger students in elementary. So we're looking to monitor the scheduling of students, providing increased support for teachers so we can really amp up our GT program as well. So I have a few pieces of data, not a lot, but this just shows this is cohort 2020. This is our current juniors right now. So as you can see, they've been taking the PSAT since 8th grade. They took the PSAT 8, 9, and 8th and 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and then they just recently, at the beginning of March, took the school day SAT. So you can see, starting in 8th grade, their total score, their reading and writing score, and then their math score. You can see how we've shown an increase from year to year, which is good. But you can see at the very top our national and state average, the difference there, and how we're trying to bridge that and lessen that gap. Especially in the area of PSAT, what we've been trying to work on, and I know in our district, is those national merit, commended scholars, Hispanic scholars. And so the PSAT test was redesigned in October of 2015. So starting that year, the first class that took it was the class of 2016 with the redesign. That year, we had 2 students that were recognized as National Merit Commended Scholars. So how that works is they have a national cut, they have a cut score when they receive their scores. And just to put it simple, they take their math, reading, and writing score, multiply the sum by 2, and that gives them the cut score. What we're trying, every state has different cut scores based on where you live in the nation. But Texas has had a cut score around 220, and then it increased to 221 in 2018. That year, our 2 students had cut scores of 215 and 211. The next year, the class of 2016, we had 1 student who had a cut score above 200, but it was right above 200, so not even close to the 220. And then we haven't had one since, or any student since. So the way that the national merit works, it's a huge opportunity for students in regards to college acceptance, college scholarships. And so out of the 1.6 million students who take the PSAT their junior year, about 50,000 are of the highest scores are those who will receive recognition. Okay. Then out of those 50,000, okay, 2/3 of them will receive letters of commendation, which is what our 2 students and they pretty much just go based on cut scores, right? And so that's where our 2 students fell in the class of 2016. Then the other third, which is about 16,000 students, those are the ones who go on to be finalists. So there's a process involved, but we're trying to get our students even close to that, and so we need to put a plan into place to get them to those scores. So what we're looking at is during high school PLCs, planning for PSAT and SAT readiness. Through our Gear Up grant, we were able to purchase Cambridge study guides that focus on TSI as well as PSAT prep, which we haven't had before. And so using that as part of the planning process, what skills do students need to work on, and how are those aligning with TEKS? Because what Cambridge did was they looked at what are the TEKS that are being taught, and then how can we embed the work. So when they did their presentation for us, it's not additional work, it's just how can we use their resource in warm-ups, in bell ringers, in exit tickets, so how can we incorporate what they already have into what students are already learning. Through assessments, English and math, what we're hoping is to, when we look at those benchmarks and common assessments, align TEKS with the PSAT, through the lens of PSAT and ACT and those questions, so that they're, the teachers are seeing that, the students are seeing that throughout the year. And then most important is Khan Academy and College Board. So linking all students' College Board accounts and scores to Khan Academy, which both high schools have done, and the middle schools are working on that. Working across divisions, departments, and campuses. So it's not just an English, it's not just an English focus or not just a math focus, it's across. And then, of course, the parent involvement piece and making sure that parents are aware of our opportunities. So then that leads us to AP. Again, we've been recognized for offering AP courses, but our results have not been as good as we hoped them to be. So how can we get students there? So again, this is just a little bit of data of the number of students that have taken AP tests each year from starting in 2013-14 school year, and then the number of scholars that we get. So in order to become an AP scholar, students have to take at least 3 exams and score a 3 or higher. And then the more exams they take by scoring a 3 or higher, then they can become an AP scholar with honor and then with distinction. So how does that look? Again, amping up rigor. So College Board has redesigned their pre-AP program, and one thing that they've brought on is the Ford Shared Principles, and this is across all disciplines. It even goes into fine arts, all content areas. So academic conversations, close observations and analysis, higher order questioning, and evidence-based writing. And you're seeing this across. And so once students are exposed to that, they're seeing higher scores in AP. So common assessments, giving students an actual AP simulated test, and doing an analysis on that. We have some teachers who are doing that, but it's not necessarily when our district is giving the common assessment for the rest of the students. So we're gonna see if we can align that. And then every AP test has a free response section. So how can we, if we're gonna try and increase that, then let's give students feedback, let's give teachers feedback on how students are doing on that writing. Of course, tutoring, because we do expect students who are taking these advanced classes to devote a little bit more time. There are online review options that we will allow students to do. And then monthly PLCs, meeting and collaborating with teachers, so that, you know, a lot of times we have our AP class at one high school and an AP class at another high school, but best practices. So how are we doing that, and then cross-curricular too? So it's not just, again, English, talking to social studies, and how can we collaborate to help our students? Yes, ma'am.
So, we have much more success with students who gain college credit through dual credit.
Right.
Correct? So, just asking, since we have so few successes in the AP classes, I mean, it was very, very few. Why do we do that?
So there's a couple of reasons. So one of them is there are some schools that don't accept the dual credit, and so depending on where students want to go, we want to give them options.
I know,
And so,
but if only three can pass the AP classes, why are we putting our resources into AP classes versus dual credit? Because if you only pass one AP class, you're not really saving anything when you go to university that doesn't take dual credit. So,
and
I'm
I
just thinking money-wise, why are we spending so much money on AP classes when we can have like resources and more classes?
So what we're looking here is student preparedness and the rigor. So one of the things that we do like about the College Board is the rigor of the curriculum. So, you know, once looking at the pros and cons of where our students are benefiting the most, we want to make sure that we're also impacting what is happening within the curriculum. So one of the things that we've gone back and discussed is that instead of having the students compete between taking a dual credit or an AP course, is then using that AP curriculum in our dual credit courses. So that we're going to be potentially stacking that AP and dual credit. So we've spoken to Palo Alto, they don't have any, you know, any ill feeling of us doing that, and also AP College Board, they're okay with us moving forward with stacking, which is using the AP curriculum inside the dual credit.
Right, but why do we encourage our kids to take AP classes if it's not extra classes?
and I
I
think
feel
that's
like it's a waste of time.
And I think that's a part of the preparedness on the teacher's part and the student part. Because if we're not preparing the students for that level of test, then we're not setting them up to pass, right? And so exposing them, because we're right now we're focusing on STAR, you know, so it's a totally different test. It does have that writing component, so the chemistry teacher, you know, are you focusing constantly on that the writing in the chemistry class, and what kind of questions?
So otherwise, the
So-
curriculum is not doing the job for our college vouchers, is what basically what we're saying. That if we just do our regular high school curriculum, the kids are not gonna be college ready.
Right, right.
So we need the AP curriculum in order to achieve that.
Well, you know
Well-
what, go ahead, sir.
I just think that in our research, looking at different models, but we are heavy AP, so we don't want to also offer AP opportunities. What we're seeing is when you get into the research and work with Region 20 or whatever higher education we're working with, there's a value to have a balance to those opportunities, those pathways. What we understand, whether it's true or not, or more true or more not, is that there's a higher shows us we need to do a better job. I mean, this is the first time putting it out there, we're not sugarcoating any of the data. Our data shows that it's,
Here with the other districts in Lake County, not doing No, not.
Not,
oh, we're not doing it. That's not a good question to look at.
And how do our numbers compare?
So one of the concerns on the south side, we met with, I think, all the school districts, and what they've also requested is partnering up. So this is what Jackie was sharing, and we have one casting as AP teacher. They normally do not have anybody else to partner with and share resources and even brainstorm through their curriculum. So what the other campuses in the districts, other districts have asked is for us to partner, so last year we were able to do that. So we had like a coalition of AP directors sharing, and we also want to create those opportunities across the districts. And the boundaries have been that, just for the teacher themselves, it's just the teacher themselves that plan. So their outcomes are going to be the same year after year. Why? Because they have nobody else and no other resources to gain from. So as far as the AP, it's just the curriculum, it is a little deeper than even the dual credit course. And sometimes the scope and sequence, the timeline of, let's say, a history course is not the same as an AP course, because an AP course will cover deeper and maybe in a longer period. So this is where we do have to do some alignment. But, as a, high school principal, I do see the benefit of an AP course. And even like our Columbia student here, Valedictorian and Diego, he came back from Columbia stating that the AP course prepared him because it requires more writing. And this is where we do see more than rigor that in dual credit course, because I can think about, sometimes even those assessments are not mirroring what our college professors are going to require from us when they're taking a lot of this writing. So at the same time, we are owning that, and we're going back and making sure that our first graders are writing, our kinder students are writing, and that the writing is not happening just because they're in an AP course. The writing is happening in every single classroom in order for us to improve our tier 1 instruction, and at the same time to credit for college readiness. So we don't want to throw out any of the great things that we are doing, but we definitely want to come back and improve and create a system. So the fact that Pablo Alto is saying and Colorado College is saying it's okay for you to stack your curriculum of AP with our curriculum dual credit, then we're already happy about the fact that we can benefit in doing that. So the other thing we have to go back and do is we don't have all our AP teachers that are dual credit. So that'll be the area where we'll have to come back and work on that. Every single AP teacher can potentially work for becoming a dual credit teacher. And at the same time, every dual credit teacher, we would like for them to reach to that AP curriculum. So our goal would be that richness of that AP curriculum and seeing our scores really improve, because the reason the kids are not reaching those AP scores, it also goes back to how prepared the teachers, and then that curriculum, how deep are we getting in that AP curriculum. So that's definitely a gap and something that we really want to come back and get better at.
I think as a byproduct, there's some really great scholarship opportunities to go far into. You have your different scholars, Spanish scholars, there's scholarship opportunities, merit scholars, scholarship opportunities, AP scholars, there's scholarship money for the college. Those are another recognized field that actually our kids, we need to get them to those levels so they can have college tuition.
I just would like the students to know and the parents to know going into it that, okay, so the majority of our kids are not gonna go to Columbia, right? I mean, that's what, we do our junior colleges, we do the schools in San Antonio. So they need to be made aware of what is the most beneficial to them, right? So, it, Joe graduated with, he was a sophomore when he entered Incarnate Word, because they took all of his dual credit, right? All the boys except Stevie took dual credit. So it saved us a lot of money, right? And so as a parent, I wanna know, I wanna be sure that if I'm worried about paying for college, that my kid is in the dual credit class and not an AP class. But sometimes the kids go in thinking I'm gonna take AP and then they graduate with no credit. You know what I mean?
Right,
So,
right.
I appreciate like the rigor of AP, but, like, value-wise, I think dual credit.
And so because of that, we didn't want to put the students in a choice, but we want to make sure that we are leading bonus into both good things. So even Alamo colleges are creating what's called a TAG, which is Targeted Advising Guides, where they're guiding them specifically on them taking a dual credit that they need. So in the past, we were like really celebrating Southwest High School, we got the most dual credit, but then when they would go into UTSA, how many of those dual credit courses really lined up with our targeted advising guide for that particular degree. So we're trying to come back, and Jackie's gonna go into a little bit into that we're trying to really design a plan that is targeted for each individual student. And that's really our hope and what we're trying to accomplish in this work. So instead of them choosing AP, DC, and misleading anyone, we wanna make sure that we are aligning all of our great things and putting them all in this one section where the kids don't have to decide.
We're gonna do both at the same time.
Yes.
Generally speaking, it's my opinion, really, really that if a kid who takes AP classes and goes into, let's say, second semester of English, they took the AP class in high school, is at a disadvantage to kids who took the law course, English 101, at the university that they're in. So they're at a disadvantage, they find themselves having to catch up. I also think, having a girl who's currently in college, is that a lot of the AP classes don't count toward their majors that they have. And so they end up having a whole lot of courses, but they end up still taking 4 years to graduate. So, the other thing is, I think kids ought to know, to your point, what is really the significance of what they're doing. It's just not a art course or some whatever. It really can help them get into college or get their classes done. So they'll pay attention in that class. Because they won't get that same class in college.
Thank you.
Our promise to the board is we're never going to pass up the DC opportunities. We're not going to give you anything to create DC opportunities. DC, and we're looking down the road that some of our DC projected teachers are within their 3 to 4 year window to retirement. And so we're working a different front, trying to identify talent, give people the credentials so that we can continue offering DC, especially in math area. High school, that's critical. So, yeah, we're never going to bypass DC.
We're looking at aligning, to your point, so that way we're just not offering everything, and it hurts a student because, so, in the long run. So, so that leads us into our plan for success that we were talking about earlier. So having a plan for all students. And so what we did was we took our, one cohort, and we thought, okay, let's think about our 8th graders right now. And how can we get all of these students college ready and making sure that they each have a plan by the time they leave high school and have been exposed to that rigor, that college level, those college level courses. So when we look at one group of students, we have students in the top 25%, that middle group, and then we have students in the 75 percentile. So when we're looking at that, we started TSI testing all of our students our top students in 8th grade. So the students that were in honors courses and in certain courses at middle school, and those happen to be most of our 25 percentile. And so based on how they do, we also have a group of 7th graders that are currently enrolled in algebra. And so seeing how they do on the TSI test in middle school, one, helping the high school with they're not having to test all of these students once they get to high school. We can take care of a bunch of that by the time they get to high school. And then 2, seeing where they fall. So if we have students who are in 8th grade, have passed all areas of TSI, which we have, we've had a lot of success. We have our, and I'll get to it in a second, but our Gear Up coordinators have been coming up with a plan to help prepare students for TSI. They've gone through a prep program. They've tested once, they've tested twice, and now they have a prep plan to test another time before the students finish 8th grade. And so we have some that are TSI complete in the areas of reading, writing, and math. And so just to explain, TSI, that's Texas Success Initiative, and that if the students pass the TSI test in those 3 areas, then the state is saying that they are ready to enter a college level, entry-level class in those areas, reading, writing, and math. And so we're going to get to the health pathway in a second, but what we want to do is we want to do this for every pathway. And so for students who are in that Tier 1, those T1 scholars, that first group, We're looking at having them be core complete by taking those college classes that will apply to any degree plan. And again, going back to the advising guides to see, okay, you're in this pathway, so what courses can we give you that will help once you enter that pathway in college? Because you're doing that here in high school. Possibly associate's degrees, and these students would be, these are partnerships that we've developed through our health pathway. These are students who would be working with Palo Alto, St. Philip's. We have a new partnership with UT Health Science, University of Incarnate Word, and then the College of Health Professions. And so you see how we're providing opportunities in that area for those students. Then we have our T2 scholars who may not be TSI ready in all areas, but let's say they're in reading and writing right now. Our students have been doing really good on writing, and so reading and writing. So what courses can we give those students so that they can at least, by the time they graduate, take 12 or more college hours, okay? And our goal is 12 for that group. If they take more, great, but that's where we want to get them. And then our T3 scholars, we also have students who, they attempt. Our goal is to test all students by the time they get to 10th grade and then do targeted targeted retesting after. But these are courses, we still want to expose students to that rigor. And so there are courses through Palo Alto and St. Philip's, our partner colleges, where students don't have to necessarily pass TSI, they have to take it, but once they've taken it, they can enroll. And so we're lining up courses along that pathway. So again, those students have that exposure. So what is college class like? What are my options? And so we're looking to do this under each pathway. So today our focus is on the health professions, but we're looking to do this under each pathway in CTE.
So the CTE is going to have the dual credit opportunities
Yes,
for them
ma'am.
to get those 9 college hours.
Yes, ma'am. And we've been meeting with the colleges to say, okay, this is what we wanted in, like, I'm just going to say health professions. What courses can we offer? We want it in this area. What courses can we offer? So we're working with them to align
Do we have
that.
to pass all 3 of the TSI in order to do that?
Not necessarily.
Not
There's
necessarily.
courses that as long as they take the test, that's all they have to do is take it, and then they
Okay.
can enroll.
Okay.
And so,
Those are the CTE dual credit.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So those lean more towards an applied associate later on in your experience. The students in tier one, the idea of the vision is that they're going to start to work their associate's degree early in their high school experience. The other students are going to be an associate or workforce certification of some sort. And then the tier three scholars get more towards a workforce certification, but at the end of college career as well.
And one thing, if you
Oh,
could go back
okay.
to that plan for success, with the new accountability system, every single senior has to have at least 1 point, whether they have dual credit or there's different indicators. So with this plan for success, we are ensuring that every student will have at least 9 hours of dual credit, and it says in any other subject area other than reading and math. And then also we're making sure that we are fulfilling with a plan that each senior will walk through the stage with a high school diploma, but also that college career military readiness, that 1 point that we are really trying to create a plan for instead of like saying it's good. Right now, what we're trying to do is, finding where are the students at, and this way with this plan, we will know from the onset of the 9th graders what the plan is going to be for that 9th grade student by the time they graduate.
So it's systemic and you're plugging the child in. Instead of trying to figure out
Where they fall.
what works with the student, you're actually got a system in place and you're just plugging students.
And it goes back. It goes back to that advising because again, we've been letting students, choose willy-nilly, here and there, and then but we're not benefiting the student once they graduate. We're not preparing them, So if we can do this way, very strategic, and again, we have a plan in place. This is where So if the parent asks, this is what it looks like through college. I mean, I would feel much better as a parent as well, knowing that okay, that makes sense. So,
And as far as the advisement, this plan will only work if we're advising the students, if they know what's coming, and the parents know as well. So even the counselors, we met with them last week on Monday, and they've also agreed that instead of them working with this plan alphabetically, they're each going to take a cohort. So then we're going to have one lead counselor that's going to be seeing all the senior work as a partner, but then the work by cohort is going to be one counselor will be working with a cohort from the time that they enter as 9th graders to the time they graduate. So that is work we're excited about because now we'll know that one counselor will be overseeing the work of the students, and then they're also going to be teamed up with an administrator. So, well, I know that in discussion right now they have a group students that they work with. So their caseloads are not going to change, but the work that they do, so the work that happens with a freshman is not the same work that happens with a senior. So in the senior year, they're going to be teamed up with the lead counselor. So in the past, even with the numbers that we currently have at our high school, and by having 5 counselors at each high school, it's pretty much a managing number that is, it does fit the number, you know, based on the formulas. And I know that in the past, and also with Ms. Aragon, speaking to the counselors, even Jackie, when they followed that format of working by cohorts, that's when they saw the most success. Success because the counselor really got to create a relationship with the students, and so they had a better track of where the student was heading. So we're hoping to see, I mean, that hasn't really been raised the concern, we always want more. We always want more help, but this is going to be a better managing tool for them to be able to look at our resources and better guide how the students are moving through our process.
And after 4 years, that one counselor will know what to do with freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors.
Right. Because we're gonna
Everybody
grow
will be
with
fully
that.
trained.
And so, aligning with the dual credit part, and we've done a lot of work this year with the TSI. So again, like I mentioned, having the students tested for the first time by the time they are in 10th grade, looking at TSI data and where areas, because once the students test, it tells them exactly what they need to work on. It breaks it down by skills. And so, if teachers know that, then they can, help with that piece of it. I think the parent information piece is huge. Again, why are they taking the TSI test? Students, I'm not sure at this point, understand why they're taking it. And so, much less the parents. And so I think that piece is huge, encouraging that and informing. So that's something that's going to be coming forth. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, through Gear Up, they have been able to provide resources, teacher professional development. And this year, our coordinators have led the TSI prep at the middle school, hoping that will be sustained, as they move up to the coordinators move up to the high school. So, and then GT. So as we look at especially our elementary, we have a lot of opportunities in the secondary, but ensuring that teachers who are serving GT students have their foundation. Right now, we have a state plan that we're supposed to be following, and there's a few things that need to be fixed within that state plan for us to be in compliance. One of the things is the Genius Hour project. So students have to do to meet requirements for the Texas Performance State Project, Standards Project. They are expected to do a project throughout the year or to show that they're enriching or they're showing enrichment. And so the Genius Hour project that we've been implementing for the past couple of years is how we've been satisfying that. And so, but revamping that and making sure that it truly is enrichment versus additional work, which is feedback that I've been receiving from some students at different campuses. And so we'll be looking at that. And then finally, how are we going to recognize these students in the top 10%? So I know we've had millennial scholars. They've come, they've gone, they come, they've gone. But this is something I really want to focus on, starting in middle school, grades 6 through 12. Recognizing them for their what they've done academically, but also exposing them not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom to that college readiness. So we're working on a plan right now, so starting in 6th grade, that they have an opportunity to visit college campuses and be exposed. Here in San Antonio, expanding in the general area, but that way, by the time they're in 12th grade, every year they've had an opportunity, and it's not just based on the campus that they've been at, because I know we do have some schools that are very active in taking their students, but this would be something that we would be coordinating with these millennial scholars. Along with other, I'm looking to set up parent meetings, throughout the year, but it would be a program that they know, okay, once I'm in the top 10% and I stay there, this is what will benefit from. So.
Okay, so that's like for the top 10%. What about them?
No, so we're not going to say, not for them. We definitely, and that is one thing, as part of Gear Up, one of the things that we did in 8th grade was all students, one of our goals was for all students to have a college visit, right? And so what we wanted to do through this is take each student, so that way they're not visiting UTSA every year, right? And so, or Palo Alto, wherever, Texas A&M. So we know, okay, in 6th grade, this is the trip that they're going to take. In 7th grade, this is what they're going to do. So it's just, targeted for that group, but also encouraging, through our department and through counseling, we're encouraging that college piece, the college visits, the college field trips, and, so the students can get that exposure.
So you're thinking
Definitely.
of all 6th graders, not just the top 10%?
Well, currently, we're not doing it at all.
Right.
So we definitely wanna start a pilot somewhere. So we've been saying Lego scholars, and that kinda like dwindled down. So we wanna come back and really take Lego scholars and expose them in a systematic way versus going to UTSA every single year. So we wanted to start with a pilot group and make sure that this is something that we can have a plan for, now that we have here. And then at the same time is encourage the principals that if we're spending some of our money, that they are definitely making a purpose and for them to target some of these colleges that we're opening the doors for them as well. So this is gonna be almost like a partnership with the campus funds and with what they're doing in the campuses, that instead of just taking a field trip to Texas, they can consider them taking to, going to a college or university, and we're going to be the ones tapping on those doors and opening those doors for them. So this is kind of going to be a pilot, so like that we are making sure that we are touching up on those top 10%, but also the campuses can go ahead and also push that to a different level. And so right now that's the proposal of us moving forward and having that pilot group. And then again with Gear Up, the benefit of it is that because the funds are there and the availability of charter transportation, it's allowed us to take the entire class for them to be able to enjoy all these college business.
Overall, we're trying to get more students to not only access college, and right now that's pretty much 88%. That means that more students are choosing not to go to college, so there's a great number. If you look at the graduating class, 500 at Southwest High School, 500 at Southwest Elementary High School, that the number of students not choosing college or applying pathway after high school, and if they do, there's a larger percentage not choosing college and dropping out tertiary, maybe on ramping somewhere down the road. So, but we want to see them. We've done a lot of great things in the district to create workforce pathway and additional certification. And we want to do our due diligence for those students at the top, so we're not kind of putting them back either. And so we're trying to address all the kind of elements about our high achiever early, or being able to be high achiever. They just fall on board at different times in life. But if they want to be cut loose and really fly, we want to provide that path for them to fly. At the same time, we don't want to take away from our students who are workforce or scholarship. So I think we're getting, paying attention to that population of students, 100 students graduating. So it'd be like 100 every grade level. It's a good start. And if we can learn from them, then we kind of take it down and we make sure everyone has a visit in the future. We make sure everyone does a job shadow, a job intern opportunity, a real world kind of capstone product again. So yeah, we're trying to really kind of lift the horn and raise the ceiling at the same time.
I like the hybrid piece of it. It feels like a hybrid to me, and I like for our top 25% that they get that opportunity. Because even for our kids, even those that are in the top 25%, university might be out of their reach due to finances, and they have to go to work. And this allows them to earn credits, dual credits, possibly certification, so they can go to work full-time and do college while they're working. So unfortunately, that's just our circumstance.
Well, just to go back to that path of success, we definitely are making partnerships so like that we are addressing the top 10%, the top 25%, the 50%, and the 75%. So even with the partnerships, and we're not even going into detail of that work, but the design for success, like when the students are selecting a certain pathway, we want to create an opportunity for them to have access to the workforce or to CHCP, which is the College of Health Career Professions. So they will still have an opportunity to access to what their post-secondary experience is going to be. So for that is, and for every single pathway, that's the work that we're working on, is making sure that we're creating MOUs and opening doors for every single student in our system. That they will have access to an outside post-secondary college or university that they're going to be able to step foot in and feel comfortable because they've already been there. So what we're trying to do here is just with the top 10% that we have pretty much neglected, that we say that we're addressing it, but really do not have a systemic way of doing the work. Well, along with this, it's kind of like advanced academics, but with CTE, that's definitely the work that we're doing for every single pathway.
I just have one comment or concern about I'm also recognizing the top 10%. But years ago, when early college high school came in, my boys were in junior high, and they didn't target the top 10%, right? And I was kind of upset because I said, well, like
Right,
They're
right.
probably not the go-getter, they're probably, their parents maybe are not familiar with the college system and all that, so very important to keep them in the college mindset, and maybe, I don't wanna not recognize the tough times that they've worked really hard, but not to forget those.
Definitely. Thank you. And so we have the plan for success, and now we move into the design for success, which is what we want to do for every pathway. And so the next part is going to be the design for success for the health professions pathway, and Valerie's going to walk you through that.
Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Gutierrez. I'm the health science lead at Southwest High School. So I've been collaborating with Jackie and Ms. Wagner as far as just the health side of it. And the first thing that I wanted to say is thank you for the opportunity to speak. Second, when I started here, it was all about certifications. I thought it was a huge deal that we offer the kids in any pathway through CTE certifications. I didn't have that in high school, and had I known something like that, my life probably would have taken a completely different pathway. I currently work in the operating room at Methodist Hospital. In high school, I thought I had my life figured out, and later on realized that I needed a trade because I needed to work, had low-income parents, so I needed to do something. So that's where these trades came in. I got that certification, and then, like you were concerned, I worked as I was going to school, nights, weekends, whatever it was. In doing that and in starting here, I kind of was like, well, we're doing a disservice to all of the students by just giving them a certification of some sort. So I would really like them to be college ready for all levels. So in this, we kind of created those 3 tiers. And if you look in the packet, I gave a manila folder on all of your desks. There is a Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. You can see that Plan A is very, very rigorous. It goes in the dual credit route. They'll be getting about 60 hours. And what I did was I did some school shadowing over at Health Science Magnet Schools. I got what their graduation plans were, and I merged it with the college prereqs for a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing with UT Health. So when I merged those 2, that's where you get Plan A. It's very, very rigorous. They start their dual credit courses in their 9th grade year, so they will have to be TSI ready. But that gives them those interviews with a university, with our partners. And not necessarily an automatic admission into something, but they will, they have voice that, sure, we'll give them an interview, because it's very, very difficult to get into those kind of programs. Now, on Plan B, it's not going to be as rigorous. So these are the students who are going to be a little TSI ready later on, maybe in 9th or 10th grade. They can still kind of get a feel for college credit and say, hey, is this something I want to do, or do I just want to go and get a certification and go straight to the workforce only? So that's where you'll see about 20 to 30 hours of dual credit that they can get. And then also complete their prereqs into some sort of associate's program. Those are going to be merged in. So if you notice, all the dual credits that are on Plan A and Plan B and Plan C, those are not program specific. When I went to college to get my trade, right, in surgical technology, I couldn't transfer those to any college or university because they didn't mean anything. It was 60, 70, 100 and some hours, but it was not anything because they were program specific. And it sets our kids up for a terminal degree. And we want them to have something more, which is kind of why we wanted to go with the college core, because if you notice, it's chemistry, histories, maths, Englishes. It's all the core type classes that if in 4 years they finished Plan A and they say, you know what, health science really wasn't for me, I want to go into engineering. All of those 60 hours are going to help them be an engineer. So this is, it really, really benefits. And as a parent, as a college graduate, I would really like for something like this to be enforced because it actually helps the student. and then also their parents, their families that might not have the means like I did to going to a four-year college or university. And then because it's all about the inclusiveness of all students, we have the Tier 3, or which you see they complete their high school graduation requirements. This is basically what we have right now through CTE. We have a very generic pathway that the student goes through, and if they want, they take AP dual credit, and they finish their high school graduation, and they have some sort of industry certification. And that's what we have right now. So we're upping the rigor on T1 and T2 for those scholars. And but if you notice, we're keeping the industry-based certifications for all levels, okay, so that every student that goes through will have some sort of certification at the end, regardless if they're going to go to a four-year university or 6 months at CHCP or Palo Alto. One of the big differences, though, so this kind of goes through the course sequence for health science. Right now, we currently have a generic professional communications of health science as their freshman year. They go to medical terminology their sophomore year. We have a theory class, and then we have a practicum. In those practicums is where we give those industry certifications. Right now, we have the CNA phlebotomy that we'll talk about in a second that we piloted this year, and then pharmacy technician. Well, moving forward, because we have freshmen and sophomores that are in the programs right now that may not benefit the 60 hours, so to give them some service for it, we'll start those practicums earlier on. It gives them more exposure, gets them into those shadowing opportunities earlier. Partnerships will come into play during those summers between junior and senior year and seniors and post-graduation. But it also gets us to where we can say, okay, student A is going to get in phlebotomy their junior year. They pass it, they're successful. Do they want to go get a second certification their senior year? Or I'm done, I'm going to take a half day, maybe start my college courses already, or go to the workforce if that's what they need to do. So starting them earlier, getting those earlier exposures will definitely benefit. So like I said, we currently offer CNA, which is Certified Nursing Assistant, phlebotomy, and pharmacy technician. Phlebotomy, we piloted this year. My students actually take their national exam tomorrow. I have my 20 students who are super nervous. I'm biting all my fingernails off. And then pharmacy technician, the last three, OSHA, HIPAA, and CPR, every single junior gets in their theory course right now. Those will just be embedded into the practicums moving forward. Ms. Wagner will, Ms. Wagner will.
So we did put some data as to some of the reasons why we were going towards some of these other certifications. I think on the, oh, not yet. That's on the next one. So the top number you'll see up there is how much we spent for CNA tuition to Palo Alto in 2017 and 18. We had 80 students in that class. We actually have documentation that 7 students passed that CNA exam. So there's concerns with that and ensuring that if we're going to offer this opportunity to our students, that it has a benefit at the end, that they're getting some kind of certification to this. So that's a concern as we move forward with the certifications that we do choose to offer our students. We want to give them opportunities to be successful. So that was, remember, a full senior class, right? So you're talking out of about 820 students, then about 80 of them took this class. So this year looks a little bit different because we are split high school, so our class right now is considerably smaller. So we spent about $19,000 for our CNA tuition to Palo Alto, $7,500 for our phlebotomy program, and $20,000 for the Pharm Tech curriculum. So these are our breakdown of numbers from our students, but if you notice, we really actually have pretty high turnout in these classes still, even considering we have half the size of class. I have 32 enrolled in the CNA, 25 in phlebotomy, and then 20 currently enrolled in pharmacy tech. And so we should have all those certification tests completed by the end of April, so we don't have the data for their success rate for this year per se. We've got to wait on that until the end of April to get that kind of data so we can really reflect. But just looking back on 17-18, on the year before that, on the CNA data, we wanted to really focus in as we move forward on certifications that we feel like we can support for that base, because of course, we want to get them the certifications and then push beyond that with the dual credit opportunities, but we want to give them the best shot at success. So, in looking at that, these certifications that we have up here, EKG, phlebotomy, medical billing, and coding, they're all part of, under the current House bill, they're recognized for our CCMR points that students get. Every student gets a point, and each of these are recognized on there by the state. The annual salary that Ms. Gutierrez was able to put up there for you gives you an idea if they get an EKG cert, if they get a phlebotomy cert, if they get a medical billing and coding cert. This is the annual salary that they can earn from one of those certifications.
So what I just want to clarify really quickly is, because we have that Palo Alto come in, there's lots of confusion as far as why do we have Palo Alto teach the CNA when the other instructors are teaching the others. And so the concern is that you have to be a registered nurse in order to teach the CNA course. And me and along with the other instructors, we're not registered nurses, so we can't teach that class. So that's why we have to actually have Palo Alto come and send their instructor to instruct our students, where if we would replace it, I guess, with something like EKG, medical billing, and coding that gives just as good of certification and just as good of a demand in the workforce, those are certifications that we can teach in class. I'm certified to teach anything else as far as curriculum, from billing and coding, EKG, phlebotomy, surgical assisting, anything else except CNA. CNA, our hands are kind of tied as far as instructors, so we have to look elsewhere for them to instruct the course. So that's where a big chunk of that comes from.
So all of these opportunities are supported by our current staff and what we offer, so we can support that on campus. So then, of course, also we have the 3 areas of support. So industry certifications is our base. That's for everybody. And then, of course, we have college courses that will support our core requirements, as Ms. Gutierrez had noted. And what's nice about that is we've really had an opportunity to work together this year to build a plan that is sustainable and can be easily understood by our counselors. And we want to take that and model it as we move forward, not just with health science, but our other pathways as well. And then support experiences. So we know our students benefit from those exposures. UT Health Science Center, the CHCP externship and exam preparation support for certification tests so that we can ensure their success levels on those certification tests. So we'll be doing lots of partnership opportunities where kiddos can go off campus and visit these places and get that exposure to the college going culture. Okay. So this is just a breakdown of numbers of costs, but the things that we can offer, as Ms. Gutierrez had said, all 3 certifications can be taught by our own staff, higher opportunity for success on exam and job hiring, and since we will begin the practicum their junior year, they have an opportunity to possibly get all 3 of these certifications by the time they graduate.
I may have missed something. We're not doing away with the CNA.
Well, we had discussed it as a possibility. So right now, our success rate is very low on that CNA program. Like I mentioned before, we have 7 students that got certified out of 80 in that previous class. And the year before that, the numbers are not much better.
Are we rethinking it? Are we?
Yes, and so-
That maybe in the future we can set it up better?
Yes, and so we really want to step back and look at how we're providing that right now, because we do have the RN come in from Palo Alto. She teaches the class. There's, I feel like, a disconnect there with the preparation for the actual CNA assessment, and we're not providing our students that support to really be able to pass the assessment. And so we're missing that link right there, and we need to step back and really look at redeveloping that.
So have we looked at hiring an RN? You know, there are lots of nurses that.
We have talked about it, maybe getting the district nurses who are already employees here, right here at the UHS, and then also inside actually the schools where our students can, if one of the RNs want to actually instruct the students, they instruct, but then we have shadowing opportunities that we can send the students to McCullough or Resnick with their nurses to get that opportunity. But I think right now we kind of just need to step back and say, how are we going to do this within the district so that we can better prepare the students for, one, the workforce, and two, just to pass the exam, because right now it's not.
So are you thinking a year, 2 years before we can get CNA up again, or?
I think what we're trying, in our conversations with these people, their interest specifically is CSA. And that's kind of the sheep is moving to start, and so we're having really philosophical conversations around, CNA as a permanent course, that we want our students to conduct it, or do we want to move that to, current students for OBN, RA, and BSN.
Right.
And CNA just happens to be another one of those presenting a challenge along the way. And so that's what we're trying to build programming to a different level of rigor, so that we don't have just 70 students, who may pass the test, that because we move to more rigor, now we're flipping maybe 20 students who are successful in CNA. So, we're trying to look at the outcome of CNA, what that mean on, where can we go with that, and understand we work to go to more schools. In some cases, we're working at a higher level, a level that probably like yours in school. So it's about, is that what we want for our students? And I don't know if we're prepared to answer that question here today. What we know is when we sit down with doctors from UT Health, we hear what they want, when we sit with Palo Alto, we hear what they can offer us, they can look what they can offer, the College of Health Professions, what they're enthusiastic want to offer, in the certification level. So we're trying to pull all that together and see what how we're creating the rigor, and not just one CNA, but there's 4 different levels of nursing you can either be on a pathway with, learn or scholarship for, or have to.
So it's like a really big chunk, like that is like a really big.
I got you.
No, right. So we wanna do it all correctly at the same time, get it all ready.
We want to stand this up effectively so that we can grow, evolve along with it in the next 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
But we also want to honor our rising kids, rising associates, who are on these pathways, not leaving these pathways.
Oh, they have to finish up.
So if I'm a junior and I'm in CNA, then you're gonna let me finish next year?
So right now, they're not in any practicum right now for their junior year. The only practicums are senior year, so they haven't technically chosen anything with counselors right now as far as certifications for next year.
So we're not gonna offer CNA?
So if that was not gonna be offered, then it would be the EKG, billing and coding, and phlebotomy,
Yeah.
which are all equally on par as far as workforce demand and income with CNA. It's just a much easier test to get.
I guess my question is, I'm a junior and I think I'm gonna take CNA, or whatever the terminology is. Am I not gonna be,
So for the CNA program, right now we're looking at a rate of investment at 8.6%.
I know that, I'm just asking, as of right now, am I not gonna be able to take the CNA
What
test?
will senior be able to take this?
So right now, we do have the CNA still on the.
This year.
Yeah, I'm saying
For this
next
year. So we still do have CNA that's written, but we're also looking at, the students do not know these other certifications that we're giving them. They're going through that orientation right now, and we want to let them know that they also have potential for them to get these other 3 certifications.
But have we decided not to offer CNA?
No, we
for
haven't.
No, I think it'll depend on what we get on the course choice slips from the children. Yeah, and so we'll see what we get once they understand these other opportunities that are out there. And if we have enough students to make the class, we can make the choice at that time.
Amanda, with the other opportunities that we have, have you offered them before?
No, ma'am, the phlebotomy, this will be the first time we've offered that this year.
Do you know what the rate of passing the test?
So they take their test tomorrow. So we'll have, I know, so we'll see what our rate of return on that is, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. It's concerning, and so we know we've got to do some work on that one way or the other. If we keep CNA, we've got to do a better job.
We also have only 4 kids passing the AP test. I mean,
Right, I mean,
not
it's,
relative.
so what we have is just doing CNA to now being able to do CNA along with these other 3 certifications.
Yeah.
And so we're moving into expanding the certifications that we can offer with our health professionals.
Right, so the building is gonna have just a lot more choices,
Yes.
and we're hoping that the kids don't pick CNA, or that we can funnel them into these other 3.
Yeah, we can.
See what they
potentially have
say.
them even graduate with 2 certifications.
And
By
you're
the way
doing
this plan is based.
the state money potential,
Yes, and you can find that on the A through F accountability.
Okay, board, if I may, Dr. Brewster, we're running short on time, we have two presentations, so, scheduled.
A lot of good
that's pretty-
stuff,
yeah.
a lot of great stuff.
So, Dawn, if you have any further questions, please put them down and we'll make sure they get answered.
Thank you, ladies. A lot of great work happening here.
So in the next couple of weeks,
Very
to
exciting.
finish up, I would like to take you on a tour to show the facilities.
Yeah,
They
that'd
got
be
the tile in,
amazing.
so I'll send you out some dates to see if y'all are available.
Okay,
Whoever wants to go and visit the new facility, because they pretty much.
it's 100% done now?
The tiles in and stuff, they have fire marshal and all that's gonna
Yeah.
come, but we should be getting turned over pretty soon.
Okay.
I also want to thank Val and Amanda, Jackie, he's right. They've been through a lot of meetings with different folks in the last 3 or 4 months. And they've been pull something together, and obviously there's still decisions that we're making day to day, about what we know, but, some sort of when you sit in and we get recommendations from people to deal with that, we don't think we did it for that route, because that's the one that brings benefits to them. So there's a lot, so we're trying to gather all the information, and put forth the best program. What we know we have on our side is time, because we're gonna do this with the rising group, as well, just like we're doing past year. So with the rising group, and things over time, so I wanna commend them for that one, if you made it. So our next, presentation is going to be our athletic director, Blue Ragman, I think, Jackie, Rodriguez as well. When I asked Pete to kind of scale it down, even from.
I'll go fast.
We already spelled it already,
Mhm.
but this is an opportunity, so we just kind of.
Cliff notes. So, in the past, and this past year, the UIL has changed some rules for our summer strength and conditioning, how we operate. And it really gave us an opportunity to reflect and really offer a lot more opportunities for our kids. And with those opportunities, it allowed me to kind of think, what can we do more for our kids? And got to talk to Jackie, and given everything else we've seen today, it kind of goes right along that path. And so I'll just get started. But the UIL changed a few rules. Number one is we can transport students now. So we can run buses to and from to pick our kids up to come to strength and conditioning and things like that, from incoming 7th graders to incoming 12th graders and go forward. We have not been able to do that in the past, so our numbers were not very big. And so I think this will be a big deal for us. Workouts now, in the past, we had to wait until the first Monday after school we could do that, but we only had 6 weeks to do it. Now we can start on the first Monday, and it doesn't have to end until the last Thursday before school starts. We only had 6 weeks before. We can do it a lot longer. District coaches may now, and this is the big one in trying to deal with a lot of the clubs and things like that and give more opportunities to kids who may not be able to afford private coaches and all those types of things. The UIL is now allowed for our district coaches to do sports-specific training with our kids 2 hours a week, but it's per kid, not per sport. So if you play multiple sports, you don't get 2 hours per sport, you get 2 hours per kid. So things that we'll work out as we go. And then finally, the district has to pay those coaches. You can't bring in outside people and then the booster club or somebody else pays them, or however it works. The district has to pay, and that's to try to even up the playing field a little bit. But these things got us to thinking that there's a lot more things we can do now that you have those. Now that your coaches in football, soccer, and basketball, we can take them and actually do skill-specific stuff that we could never do before, that our kids would go to their private pitching coach or their private shot doctor and things like that. And so we think that that's going to really bring a lot of kids back to us in the summer. Yes, ma'am.
At the number 3, it says that you can coach, does that mean you can actually put a team?
No.
Okay.
So you can, there will be ways that you can do that to a certain degree, like our sports initiative that we've gone through, and we've had those discussions, but those are not quite there. So going back to kind of what you've seen already today, as we got started, we started thinking, well, what are some of the gaps that we have in athletics? And how can we use this opportunity to do that? 2 things, obviously, we need to continue to develop fundamentals in our different sports. Well, this allows us to do that if our coaches choose to. The second thing is I have a lot of conversations across both high schools as kids come in. They're like, as seniors, I want to play college. I want to play in college. What do I have to do? Well, let's look at your test score. Well, it's not very good. So you're stuck with going to community college, or we'll find you a school, but then you're probably going to have to pay for it depending on your FAFSA and things like that. So we want to really address those needs, and we feel like because, again, we can bring them in, we can bus them in, we can do different things, that we will be able to get more kids to help them in this area. And so we want to work on their SAT scores and things like that. Our Texas High School Coaches Association has also partnered with College Board to bring the Khan Academy on, train our coaches at coaching school and things like that, because probably the most influential people in our district are those of us who are in extracurricular activities, whether it be fine arts, athletics, different things like that. So we want to really take advantage of those things over the summer. So our plan provides a lot of opportunities for our student athletes as well as our coaches to choose to try to fill those gaps. Lots of opportunities that I've gone through. Our plan includes that we'll feed them breakfast when they get here, and before they leave, we're going to feed them lunch. So a kid that comes to us will come to us and they'll eat breakfast, they'll work out, they'll get some tutoring, we're going to work on some things, and then they're going to learn how to shoot a basketball, hit a ball better, and things like that, and then we feed them lunch and send them home. So you get a whole half day there. Within that, we're going to work on Khan Academy stuff, we're going to work on our 7 habits to really train the whole kid, and then we're going to really start looking at some other things to help them get ready for college and then to start planning the rest of their high school and college careers. And so I'm going to turn this over to Jackie real quick so she can talk about that.
So in conversation with Coach Weiner, we're looking again to see how we can benefit all of our students who may be attending a program in the summer. And this right here is targeted for students. We have a track A for students who may need credit. Okay, we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to earn credit while they're here. They're going to be, there's a portion of their day that's going to be dedicated to academics. And so they'll do strength and conditioning, academics, and then they're sports specific. And so during that time, how can we help? And so credit recovery, several of our coaches are trained on Edgenuity, so we have a plus there. For those students who don't need credits but may need TSI, we're going to break it up and chunk it into TSI reading, and then they test. TSI writing, test, TSI math, and then test. So they're getting the instruction. Again, these coaches don't have to necessarily be teachers in that content. We have the resources that they can just take out and give to students and prep them for the test that they'll take right after they do the prep. And then for those who are TSI complete in any of those areas or all the areas, of course, we would want them to do Khan Academy. Then we would do character ed on Thursdays, along with post-secondary and high school planning. And so what we want to see is the students leave the program. Oh, man. Yeah, okay. With a portfolio. So, and again, this isn't an end-all. These are just things that we notice that there's a gap in, and they're uninformed until they get to their senior year. And so we want to start even the middle schools with how is GPA calculated? Because again, a lot of times they get into their junior year and like, okay, how can I raise it? But it starts in freshman year, so we want to make sure that they're informed about that. How to read a transcript, advanced course opportunities, extracurricular opportunities other than just the sports. And then community service, because a lot of times when they get to that junior, senior year, they're applying for scholarships, they're missing that component, that extracurricular and the community service. Then post-secondary, big, registering for NCAA and AIA, those college entrance tests, SAT, ACT, TSI, college applications and essays, and then scholarships. And we have tons of resources to help the coaches with that piece of it, so that the students can leave knowing that they're going to be more informed in these areas.
So I think I can probably more effectively paint the picture with this plan this way. So in May, I plan with Jackie and a couple others to hit every secondary campus. And what we're basically going to do is we'll do a flyer, do a lot of things to get kids. Obviously, we're competing with other schools, IDEA and things like that. Sports is where people, when they're in 6th grade, everybody thinks their kid's going to college. So these are ways that we can bring people in and show them what Southwest ISD has to offer. So we go to Scobie that first time, it's going to be, do you want your kid, does your kid want to go to college and play college, whatever, and things like that. So we design that flyer, they come in. At that time, what they're going to get is they're going to see what, we offer a program called Core Course GPA. So those kids who are in 7th grade Spanish that they're getting high school credit, that goes towards their eligibility for college. If they're taking algebra in 8th grade, which they all do, they need to understand that goes towards their eligibility for college. And we show them Core Course GPA, how to log on. There's an entire thing of how to be recruited, what you need to do as a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, all the things that you need to be looking for, and we're going to go through all of those things. And as well, we'll bring in our counselors, and they're going to talk to them about those same things that we talked about previously about planning and things like that. And then finally, we're going to talk to them. There's more than the University of Texas. You don't have to be 6'8" to go play football or to go play basketball. If you really love to play, there's a lot of places, and we have alumni that we can prove that. But we need to show them that this is possible so that they can plan accordingly, but they need to understand how their grades and their test scores fall in so that they can pay and afford it in a certain way. And we're going to educate them during these things. At that time, we're going to talk to them about our plan for the summer to bring them in. And we think that that will really bring more kids who might be teetering from going to Scobie to going to the New Idea campus that, look what these people can provide. I'm going there, and I'm going to go there all summer and really start working on that. And so when a kid comes that summer, that first day, depending on how the coaches, we're giving the coaches a little room to plan accordingly, but they will be doing 30 to 45 minutes of Khan Academy. Both of our high schools are connected. They can get on their phone. They can get on their computer. We're going to work with them. Our coaches know how to do it. They already have it. They've already taken the PSAT, most of them. So it's going to go in, and it's going to give them direct tutoring what they need to do to raise their test score. As Jackie has shown before, if you go to 20-plus hours of Khan Academy, your scores can go up close to 200 points. Our average, as you saw in the presentation, is around 865. That means our kids, our athletes, are scheduling around 1,000, which means they need about a 2.4 GPA just to qualify for Division I. Right now, we don't average that. And that's kind of what we're trying to get at. While we're doing those things, a kid comes in, he goes and gets that tutoring, eats breakfast, then the middle school kid will go learn how to dribble and shoot and hit and pitch and things like that, while the high school kid is going to go through strength and conditioning. That is not just football, it's for everybody. We'll have girls and boys coaches taking care of their business and doing it and designing that program to help them. Then they'll flip, do it again, and then we're done, eat lunch, get out of Dodge. And so that's kind of the plan in a nutshell. I probably could have done it faster reading, but my apologies.
Do we want to consider like a mail out to the community, kind of selling this whole idea? Not like relatively soon, that way they're already thinking about it and the kids do not take the flyer home.
And are you busing from their houses or like from the middle schools or?
So the first 2 weeks, I think that summer school is at Legacy, so we'll probably utilize that bus route at that time. But mostly we're going to do pods. So we'll probably pick up at elementary schools so that they can get there, and then we get them there. And then we get them here, and then we go from there, and then we'll drop them off the same. But somewhere they can walk, where their kids. A lot of our complaints are, why don't you bus them? Why don't you bus them? Because the UIL doesn't let us. Now they do. So the other thing is how we're going to pay the coaches, get enough coaches here, and things like that. Because that's the one thing that we, as a coaches association, have gone back and forth with was your coach is already here 90 hours a week, and then you want them to come up all summer. So compensating them accordingly and making sure that they're here and doing those things and everything is what we're looking at as well. So
I like the program because it's very efficient and it feels like you're treating the whole child, their wellness, their nutritional needs, their academic needs. I mean, and a lot of these kids, they just sit at home and gain 10, 15 pounds over the summer and this is
and the good thing is if they want to come, they have to have a physical, so that helps us out because we don't have to worry about that.
Pete, are you prepared for the sixth graders? You know how you said in sixth grade, all the parents think their kids are going to play everything, and are you prepared for a lot of sixth graders? Or?
Well, the incoming seventh graders, I hope so, because the idea is that we're built to have 13 coaches, 12 coaches and a trainer that'll help us with a lot of the stuff, and then to be able to pay them the right way, and things like that, they will be told you have to have at least 185 kids there. Right now, in the first 2 weeks, we average anywhere between 100 to 150. By about week 3, it's about 60, and by the end of July, it's more like 40. So you get the ones that you really like. So the ones that really want to be there is what I'm trying to say. And so we're hoping that because of the skill-specific stuff, like we don't get soccer kids. Soccer kids have aversion to the weight room, for the most part. Well, we want to get them in. And so when they're learning to do that, and we think that we're going to get more basketball, more soccer, more softball, more baseball, more volleyball, and I think that our numbers will be bigger than we think. But that's gonna, and as I tell our coaches, that's gonna depend on them and how well they sell it and what they wanna do. And if it fails, it will be because we need to do a better job.
And you're having it at both high schools?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
This thing has a dollar attached to it,
Right.
130K, which is something that we're gonna bring for official board approval April 16th, and at that time, you can bring a marketing plan. Can you talk a little bit about where the funds from here?
Correct. Well, currently we have about 20,000 that we budget for summer program like strength and conditioning. And on the fact that we are gonna do some educational pieces that, I know Francis is gonna look for some funding that we could possibly use through title. But the rest of it wasn't in the initial budget. And as we're tightening up a little bit based on our ADA, this would be a fund balance item this summer, but going into next year's budget is something that will build in. It's currently, and so we gotta figure out what that cost is gonna be, minus the 20 that we already have budgeted, plus what we can possibly pay for. Because we're gonna be paying for transportation, we're gonna be paying for coaches, we're gonna be paying for more coaches over the whole summer. So you can see there, it's gonna cost around $130,000. And initially, right now, I have 20 to cover that. It was 110. There's about 110,000 that I don't have funds for at this point, but depending on what we can do with title funds, because we're really strict on what we can spend on that, the educational piece I think we can cover. It'd be covering transportation and.
What about the nutritional piece?
That'll actually benefit us because we can, we get
that.
reimbursed by those, for those meals, so even the summer feeding program. So that piece will be covered.
Okay.
We just wanna make sure that, just like anything else, if we have 180 students and we're feeding 180 students, that's great, cause I'm gonna have staff for that. But if we're only feeding 40 students and I have a staff for 180, then we have losses, and that's where we run into problems, and so which I hear about the point. Just something that we're gonna have to really watch and make sure that we're maintaining the numbers, because it affects bus drivers, child nutrition workers, and coaches, where, just like in summer school, we look at how many summer school kids do we really have, and we have all this staff, do we really need all this staff?
Our plan right now is to, our coaches will know that we'll take the week average and it has to be above 185. After that, Mr. Baker and I have already talked, we'll have a procedure as to, okay, you didn't make that, so we're gonna cut one person or two people, whatever we need to. But it's also motivation to, hey, if I wanna keep working, I better get some people here. And so, but we're not going to take that attendance when they're in skills development. We're going to take that attendance when they're in their academic part. And so, if you wanna make it happen, they better be getting better on the academic piece.
Peter, are you gonna bring the parents into the conversation insofar as even have maybe like a little, I don't wanna call it a contract, but certainly a commitment form that the kids can kind of, discuss with their parents and you know what I'm saying?
Yes, and I
So
think
that
I
it's
would
not
do that
so
with our
loosey-goosey,
coaches.
a
Our
little bit
coaches are a lot more, they know their parents,
Yeah.
you know,
sure.
so we can do that with our coaches, so that they can have those
Just
meetings,
kind of-
and, right, and, we can go that way. Right, right. Right. And we're trying, and we think that the skills part, if our coaches are, it's gonna draw them in, and the parents, and that's really that part of it that we're trying to sell.
That's great. The carrot.
I'll work with
So it'll come April 16th, and we'll bring the Howard and thank you, Peter, Jackie. So we're gonna do this business lecture in 7 minutes.
We're doing the budget in 7 minutes?
7 minutes.
I don't know, Brandon.
Go to the last page. Do you want me to go straight to the fund balance page? Yeah, this is just a presentation, and the majority of it is up for grabs still anyways, because the majority of it is about the legislative update. So we are currently a part of the legislative pipeline through Tazewell and Mulcahey. And so a lot of this today is just really giving you an update of where we're at. And so I'll just start off with sharing that the House has already almost unanimously, but it was 148 to 1, pushed through House Bill 3, which is looking to give us $9 billion towards school finance. Now, the issue that they have to work out, and you'll see that 6.3 of that's going towards school finance, and then the other part is going to property tax relief. A big piece of this, where they disagree with the Senate, is how to spend it. And so you'll see that school finance in the Senate is about 2.3 billion, and the property tax is 2.7, but for the Senate, they're giving the same amount of money, but they're going to pump 4 billion into paying teachers and librarians. And as you see the presentation goes on, the House bill gives us more local control over the funds, where the Senate is more detailed, like this is where you have to spend the funds. And so when you're dealing with different situations, which were, like pre-K for all, having them give us that much in our percentage, we may not be able to cover some of the initiatives that we're doing. So having more local control over our funding doesn't mean we won't give teachers raises and librarians raises, but it also gives us the opportunity to give everyone a raise, because that's kind of like our historical past, what we do. So, just to quickly, briefly go through it, what the biggest, I would say the biggest gain in the House bill, so I'm covering the House bill, because I feel like the House bill's got something that they already put forward. The Senate, they have a disagreement on really the teacher pay, and I think they're gonna negotiate that out, and the rest of the stuff that's in the House bill is gonna get passed. And this depends on what they come up with as far as a compromise between the pay for teachers and librarians. So the big jump is taking the basic allotment. Right now, our basic allotment, what we get from the foundation per student, is about $5,100, and that's gonna go up to about 6,000. So that's a huge jump, and that's where you're gonna get the majority of our funding from. And then you have a requirement, actually, which we already do. Part of it is that they're gonna require that all the districts give full-day pre-K for all eligible students. Currently, we do that now already, but we went to full-day pre-K for all students, and we took out the eligible piece. But this will really help us. They're not giving us funding per se. It's still only gonna give us half-day funding for pre-K, but they came up with a weight that is from K through 3, that deals with if you're bilingual or you're low economic disadvantage, that you're gonna get more funding, so that helps cover, and that's where they're saying you can use those funds to cover your pre-K for all. And so that's a big. They also clarified that on your M&O side, that you can still go to $1.17, but I will say, you know how we get a huge property value growth, and we're gonna get all this extra money in property taxes, and then what does the next year they do to us in our foundation? They cut us because they make us balance. Well, it's almost reversed now. Because they're gonna give us more foundation money, part of this deal is them to cut property taxes, because they're trying to do property relief. So as they give us more money on the funding side from the foundation, from the state, they're gonna kind of force us to lower our tax rate. So where we gain, in our projection, I would just jump into it, we're looking to project to get about $13 million. If House Bill 3 would pass, we would get $13 million additional dollars. But we would have to drop our tax rate. And so our property tax would basically raise, we'd lose about $5 to $6 million on the property value side. So overall, 7 to 8 million would be our gain, which is good, it's what we need, because we have some initiatives and things, and moving forward, paying teachers and all our employees. And so that's the big one right here, is the undecided on teacher compensation. I kind of went through this, but some of the other allotments that are in there, talked about basic. They came up with a new dyslexia allotment that they're putting in to help with because right now currently we don't get any funds for dyslexia from the state. The weight for comp ed, this is your economically disadvantaged student at risk. They're actually going to give us more weight for those students. And then this is the one I was talking about for pre-K, the early education allotment. They're going to give a weight of 0.10 for each educational disadvantaged student in ADA and grades K through 3. And at the same time, if you are a bilingual student too, you're going to get that weight in the formula. So that's going to give us that weight. They're going to add it to the ADA. So like basically, if I'm a kindergarten student, I'm going to get basic allotment. But then I'm going to get a percentage, 0.10 at 0.10, I'm going to get funding because I'm a bilingual student, and that's why I'm economically disadvantaged. So any kid that is at risk in our system of low economic actually gets more weighted funding. So that's added on top of that student. Yes. The foundation of that.
The basic allotment.
Correct. That adds to the WADA. So at the end of the day, it comes into a formula which is our weighted average daily, and each student, depending on who you are, gets more weighted funding. So if I'm just a basic student, I don't have any of these, I'm not economically disadvantaged, I'm not bilingual, I have the basic allotment, that's what I get. Now, if I add bilingual to it, I get more funding. If I add
Disadvantage.
disadvantage, I
So
get,
it's .20 then. If
correct,
you have one child that's both disadvantaged and bilingual, then you get 20.
correct.
Two.
And that's the funding they're saying that school districts need to use to pay for the pre-K, full day. Because most districts, a lot of districts across the state, even for eligible, are not full day pre-K. We are way above and beyond a lot of those districts. And then they're gonna change the transportation allotment. So, teacher school pay, I would just tell you the House Bill 3 is looking at whatever they give us, 25% of that is gonna go towards teachers and librarian pay. And so depending on what we get overall, we're gonna have to take 25% of that and put into teacher pay. The average looks like, if you did it across the board, and this is just a ballpark, is about $1,500 per teacher and librarian. So that's what it looks like right now. And it may change, they're still been negotiating, so this is just a high-level look at it. One thing that is going away, Jackie, I'm sorry, but they are eliminating the GT allotment, and they're putting it in the basic allotment. They're also eliminating the high school allotment, which really impacts our high schools, because that's how we pay for all the PSAT, SAT, AP, dual credit classes, all their textbooks. So that going into the basic allotment, we're gonna have to figure out a way, because our high schools are gonna actually, they're gonna lose probably 500 grand apiece in funding that's gonna have to be spread out district-wide. So that's gonna be something we're gonna have to work on. Not that we're losing funds, they're just losing that allotment.
Brandon, the .10 and the .10 for the bilingual and disadvantage, that's for just through the third grade or
Yes,
for all
K
kids?
through 3.
Just-
So that's the only people that are getting that way. Now, kids that are, there's kids that are already bilingual are already getting funding for the bilingual allotment. And there's kids that are low economic are getting already state comp. So we're already getting that funding, this is adding to it, just for K through 3. And so that's pre-K already covered. So tier construction, I'm gonna hit this real fast. So remember when we did the TRE and I talked about golden pennies and copper pennies and we got all this extra funding? Well, they're gonna change the compress rate. They're gonna go from $1, which currently, let's say, just think about $1, what that would gain us. In tier 1 of funding, which is the basic funding where we get basic allotment, they're dropping the tier 1 funding from $1 to 96 cents. And so everything above 96 cents, the next 8 pennies above that are gonna be the golden pennies. Before we only had 6. Those 8 golden pennies are very valuable to us, because those are those golden pennies that are next to the Austin yield, and that's how we're gonna gain a lot of extra funding. And then after that, you have the copper pennies, which are the Dallas yield, and they give us like $46 per WADA. And so you take your total WADA, which is, say, we have 17,000 students, and you times it times $46, dollars per WADA, then you have that funding. And so you can see a lot of this where they're getting this extra, not only in the basic allotment, but we're gonna get some extra funding because now we have 8 golden pennies instead of 6. So we picked up 2 extra golden pennies.
we don't have to, no election or anything?
No election.
You're just getting
Now,
it.
we get those, but at the same time, and I'll show you this, and you have the sheet there, you're not gonna be able to see it up there, because they did a run, so this is from the actual house, there's a run there, and right now, because we had to adopt I'm gonna kind of take you back, in August, we had to adopt, because our property values skyrocketed so much, we had to do a lower M&O rate, we went to $1.12, because our property growth.
Right.
Yeah, and so we went to $1.12, but according to the state, if they pass this bill, we're not gonna be able to stay at $1.12, they're gonna push us to $1.06. And so when they push us to $1.06, you're gonna see that we're actually gonna lower our M&O, and that's where they're coming up with that property rate, for taxpayers. And so, but the benefit is, based on our ADA, you can see all the way over there where it says changes the total M&O, we're gonna gain about $13.4 million. And that's a big gain for us, and so we're gonna go from about 9,000 per student to over 10,300 per student, in our weighted funding. And so that's an increase of about $1,000 per kid that we're gonna get from the foundation. But keep in mind, we are going to have to lower our tax rate, so that's gonna hurt us on the tax collection side. So we're gonna actually receive less funding, so if you balance it out, I'm projecting, just with the numbers we have, about 5 to 5.5 million loss on our M&O collection. So it'll overall, our our net gain is about $7 to $8 million more next year if this bill would pass. Questions on that? I know you can't really see it up there, I apologize. But,
What was the negative? We're losing what on the M&O, 5?
between 5 and 5.5 million, we're just not gonna collect it because we have to lower our tax rate.
Correct.
Because they're gonna force us, because the part of the deal, if you go back to the beginning, was property relief. The rest of your handout is kind of like just the next, moving forward. So I have a planning calendar there for you to look at. It tells you kind of where we are in the future, like what budget workshops are coming up, what do we need to do as far as board actions. You know, obviously in August is when we have to adopt the budget, adopt the tax rate. And so we'll have more information. Hopefully the state will make a decision and we'll know exactly what formulas we're going to be using, and so that we can bring forward. And as it goes on throughout the year, I'll bring you updates each month as they come through, and then when they finalize it, I'll be able to tell you exactly how much more money we're getting or what's going to be impacted.
So Brandon, do you feel that if the AP3 passes, do you feel that all our money troubles are gonna go away?
That's a loaded question, man.
Well, because we did pre-K and then we're doing the summer program, and we
Yeah.
talked about quite a few things that we're trying to figure out
Well,
what
so-
to pay for.
So if I jump ahead, based on, and so here's where we are currently, just pre-K for all. If every class, all 11 classes at every elementary filled up, which we don't know for sure that's going to happen. And we had to hire a teacher, a lunch monitor, and an aide at every campus. It would cost us about 1.1 million in staff. CAS STEM's going to cost us about 816,000 for staff for the sophomore class. And then right now, in working with just additional staff at campuses, and we're doing staffing right now, me and Will and Dr. Verstuff and such. We're having a huge increase in special ed population, and so we're gonna, I mean, it could be close to 1.5 million in special ed teachers and aides that we might possibly need next year. So overall, 3 to 3.5 in staff, and if we do something in compensation, which we're gonna be forced to do anyways, it'd be another 2 to 3 million. So yeah, I think
On top of that?
and so the last thing I'm gonna look at, special ed, we still have to work out really with staff. And then we're just kind of looking and revamping and auditing all our other expenditures, because now we're operating fully 100% with new campuses. So looking at facilities and maintenance, looking at transportation and utilities, and making sure that we are funding those like we should, or if we're overfunding them. But currently, if we had to adopt a budget with the budget we have right now, it would be giving a raise and adding those positions would be about 5 million. So if we're in the 7 to 8 million range, I mean, to say that we have an open checkbook now, I don't want to say that, but it really helps.
We're gonna clear.
Yes.
Well, the change may be we've come here for the first time in 4 years, and now that's the budget.
And
Still
we're a little
will
bit-
have to be
Correct.
extremely cautious.
No, absolutely.
On the Senate side, what this could all find out.
Correct.
No.
Changes, and then if that goes to that level, then that's going to be a burden, so we have to take care of everything else. Our deficit's going to actually.
Correct. Correct. Because that's the piece that, yeah, if let's say they say you're gonna take that, most of your funding and put it into teachers and librarians, which, okay, we'll do that. But then, I mean, I have to fund pre-K teachers, additional staff is not in that formula. And additional money towards facilities and maintenance, and additional money towards special ed. All that's not in that formula, 'cause that's the part that
And
we're
Brandon,
at.
for the future, are we gonna run the risk of having to fund this, race on our own later?
Well, we'll have for 2 years, they'll be, this funding that we're gonna getting, this $8 million extra, would happen over the next 2 years. That's always the question is, in the next 2 years, because they are spending money out of the rainy day fund, and that's how they're gonna sustain this over the next 2 years. How long will they wanna do that after? If they deplete the rainy day fund and it's all based on economics. If the economy does well and they are able to replenish the rainy day fund, I don't see why they wouldn't. But if something, the market happens and trends downward, who knows? It's the unknown.
The will is here because of the election.
Yeah.
They're
Correct.
critical of setting the boundaries again, so the will may not be there next go around. To answer your question, that's
Yeah.
right.
Mm-mm.
They always got money.
And we don't know still, right now, what they're gonna do, because we have to depend on the Senate and the governor signing off on this. And the House has a really strong bill that I support, And I know a lot of people support, and there's a lot of people in the Senate that support it. They just have to work that one issue out over teacher pay, because that's kind of the governor's, like, platform. Questions? Next meeting, I'll give you more of an update, and we'll hopefully have more things outlined.
What Brandon also meant to say is the Senate's meeting exactly right now, so this
Yeah.
conversation may change tomorrow.
Okay, we're not going into closed session, that's what we have with the minutes.
We do not have anything closed today.
You have, anything else?
I do.
One more thing?
Well, for a reminder, Prolific Fiesta, this Saturday, April 13th, 8:30 a.m. start time at the Southwest Consulate. That is a recognized fiesta event we do here at Southwest. This Friday, boys soccer is playing the regional tournament. The first game is Friday at noon. Reminder, we do have a board meeting next Tuesday, April 16th at 6 p.m., our regular board meeting. Early voting begins Monday, April 22nd. We run through May 6th. This is a Wayne Court thing.
April 30th it'll end, and then the election will be on May
Early voting,
Yeah.
22nd through the 30th.
30th. Yeah, April 30th and May 4th is the election.
Also, I'm going to email you guys a post for the 81st Meadow Flowers Association Dance Festival. There's a dignitary reception that's Thursday, April 25th. And so you have that information, so you plan to attend that. And I know that this past week I sent you guys an email about really great news from our soccer teams, making it further saver, making state playoff, one act play, Southwest Legacy in their 2-year inception of a program, made it all the way to that area, area 10. Fantastic job. Southwest Fights are moving on.
Region. They're
I
one
don't know why you
step,
guys enjoy y'all don't keep the same.
they're one step away from state, so they go to this next performance on Tuesday. They're actually performing at 1:30 this coming Tuesday, the 16th, the same day as the board meeting, 1:30 in the afternoon here at Southwest High School, so very convenient. If they advance from there, they only take 2 plays this time around, 2 out of the 6 that are performing, and if they advance now, they would be a state qualifier. Right now, they're in a group of only 24 plays in the entire state of Texas that are in this group, in the region group. 1:30 on Tuesday.
Yes, other than
Yes, our color guard, we're hosting the Texas Educational Color Guard Association. Their state championships are happening here at Southwest on Saturday as well. And the Legacy Guard performs at 2:45, and the Southwest Guard performs at 6:15. We also have middle school one act play festival going on Saturday as well. Everybody put everything on this Saturday because of Easter next weekend, so middle school will happen from 2 to 6 p.m. for all the middle school groups, and then I talked about the one act play.
Are we having a fun lunch this Saturday in this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it, we made some changes to it last year, right? We reduced it?
Yes, we
Is
reduced
that-
it in size because of the late notice of getting the go-ahead to go, so
Yes.
Some
So are we
complications.
back to the way it was before?
Yes, ma'am, the intention is to go back to where we were before, a fuller, robust vote.
So,